by dialing into the number provided on the notice of meeting or going to the Yarmouth website. We will post this as soon as possible. Please be patient as we work to overcome any technological challenges with the virtual meeting. For all meetings, to reduce confusion during the meeting, all audience participants of the virtual meeting enter the meeting muted. Participants will be unmuted when called upon to speak by the chair or moderator. If you're not speaking, please mute yourself to avoid unnecessary background noise. All votes must be roll call votes. After a motion is made and there is a second, the chair will ask for a roll call vote. Applicants and presenters will be made temporary panelists in order to share their screens while giving their presentation. All presenters and speakers need to identify themselves by first and last name and affiliation when speaking. Non-presenter applicants can use the raise hand button or use *9 on their phone to identify themselves to the chair. The moderator will unmute applicants when they are called upon to speak. Comments or questions from the public will be taken at the discretion of the chair. Members of the public may speak by selecting the raise hand button and waiting for the chair to call on them to speak. If you are dialing in by the phone provided, you can press *9 on the phone to indicate that you would like to comment. Members of the public recognized by the chair are asked to identify themselves by first and last name and affiliation for the public record and then provide their comment each time they speak. I'm now handing the meeting back to the chair. Thanks, Julie.
Thank you, Grace. Looks like we lost Bob Kelly again. Hopefully he can get back in. There he is. Okay, our first thing on our agenda is the barn repairs on 14 Homer Ave. I'm noticing some attendees that are not currently panelists. Are any of those people here to discuss Homer Ave?
If you could raise your hand, that would be helpful. No one's raising their hands, nor do the names look familiar in reference to this application.
I noticed one of the names. Those are the other one, but I don't know anyone for this one. All right, well, we'll just continue on with this. So we have a notice here for barn repairs. We all received some photos. Do we have any details on exactly what the repairs that they're trying to make are?
It was just going to be seemingly foundational work. It didn't seem as though anything major was going to occur, just to make sure that the structure was sound and a few updates.
Okay, does anybody have any comments regarding this? I noticed Bob sent some documentation regarding the property. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I had cut out and I just rejoined. So what property are we talking about?
Homer Ave.
Homer.
Barn.
Okay.
Yep. So just, it looks like they're just trying to do some minor updates to the barn. No serious structural changes or anything, and nothing to the house, just to the barn structure. So just opening it up if anybody has any questions or comments before we would just approve this or disapprove depending on what people say. It doesn't look like they're trying to do anything structural or adjust anything. So Bob, go ahead.
Just want to make a comment that the profile in the Massachusetts Historic Commission should be changed to reflect the accurate information that I sent on the origin of the house and so forth.
Okay, yep, I noted that. George, go ahead.
I'm a little uncomfortable to vote on something that we don't have verbiage on as to exactly what they're looking to do. So, you know, word of mouth is, I don't think, appropriate for the record. So I'd like to open that up for other comments.
Good, yep, actually, I agree with you. Jack, go ahead.
George beat me to the punch. I don't think we should vote until we have some kind of piece of paper or pieces of paper in front of us that say what it is. It certainly sounds reasonable from Grace's description, but there's no paper on this, and I'd like to wait until we see paper.
Okay, sounds fair. Sam, go ahead.
Sounds like we should get the owners to submit like a list of what they intend to do and vote on that list instead of just voting on saying, hey, we're going to do some stuff.
Yep. I agree. Okay. So
So I'd like to make a motion that we table this and send a document out to the owners and ask them to provide the detail that, Sam just mentioned and what other members have mentioned. So motion made.
have a second, please. Kathy's seconding. Okay. I'm going to roll call for approval. So Melanie,
Yes.
Jack?
Hey.
Bob Kelly?
Bob, you're muted.
Or goodness, Bob.
Yes.
Thank you. Bob Heislip? All right, I see him saying yes. And Sam? Yes, okay. So our motion passed. We're going to table the discussion of 14 Homer. We're going to send a memo to the owner so they can give us a more detailed list of what they're trying to do. And once we have that, we will revisit that. Awesome. Okay, I do believe one of our attendees is here for 51 Park Avenue. I think it's Jessica Zelch. Can we get her? Oh, yep, she's raising her hand. So if we can get her on as a panelist, we can discuss the Park Ave. Oh, so Doug Mullen has me for that as well. All right, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. I believe my builder, Doug Mullen, was going to.
Okay, yep, there he is. Hello.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to be discussing the demolition intent for 51 Park Avenue. I'm going to turn it over to Doug Mullen. Go ahead and give us your presentation.
Yes, we are paperwork. Yeah, so we're going to just raise and rebuild this home. Right now it's sitting in the flood zone. We wanted to lift up the structure just due to the age condition of the house. It's going to be more cost efficient to just build brand new. The new home, which is primarily in this existing footprint, fits well in the neighborhood. That's about it.
Okay. Do we have anybody with questions or comments regarding this property? I can't see everybody. Bob Kelly, go ahead.
I noticed this area was a saltworks area, and I noticed that the roof on the existing house is a hip roof, not indigenous to this area, but was common building in the early 19th, late 18th, late 19th, early 20th century for cheap lumber for roofs in that area. So that would indicate the possibility of that roof being a salt cover.
It's not.
All right. Sam, go ahead.
You said you're planning to raise and replace. Before I make any comments about that, I would like to know what your proposed new building looks like.
I did email Grace the elevations of that. I don't know if you have those, you can show those.
Yep, let me pull those up.
Didn't receive that.
February 6th, email. Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
Which view are we looking at here? Front street view?
That's Front Street view, yes, Park Ave.
Quite different.
That's Malfa Road side.
Oops.
That was on a side view. That's the rear.
All right, that's quite a different look than what's originally there. Does anybody feel that we should do a site visit of the existing property? Jack?
I'd just like to ask a question. Could you elaborate a little bit on the comment you made at the beginning about it's more cost efficient to raise and replace?
Yeah, the condition of the house right now, there isn't really a basement. There's a small section that's, I mean, I'd say it's 6 feet tall. The rest is a crawl space. The original plan was to try and lift the house, renovate, rebuild the second floor, but the cost to lift this house, I know they have as of right to lift the house to get out of the flood zone, but in order to actually lift it, do the renovations that they wanted to do, cost-wise, it's more expensive than actually, tearing it down and rebuilding a new home. The condition of the framing in the basement's awful. The inside, it's seen better days, let's put it that way. And for my client to try and repair what is there, it's quite a few dollars more to do so.
Okay. Are the property owners here today?
Yes, I am. This is Jessica Zelk.
Okay, I was just going to invite you to, if you wanted to speak to this,
Yes.
Please do.
Yes, so we purchased the home in March of last year, and we fell in love with the area, and really had every intention of just getting out of the flood zone and working with what we had. Unfortunately, since the first month that we have been in the home full time, we have none of our bathrooms are working properly. We do not have a working kitchen. We have major gas leaks, so we have to have all of the gas lines completely repaired to the street as well. We have had just issue after issue. We get water in our basement every storm. We get water, the bigger rainstorms, we have water that actually comes through the walls and the windows. Unfortunately, this house was really built more to be probably a summer cottage, and the two prior owners before us that owned it for the majority of time just didn't really put any time and money into the residents. So at this point, we're really dealing with something that's crumbling around us. And unfortunately, this is our full-time home, and it's been a great challenge. So we've done everything we can. We've exhausted all of our options. We went through conservation twice. They have approved it both times. We just went through zoning. They've approved it and also agreed that the design that we came up with was very appropriate for the neighborhood and also, very aesthetically pleasing. Our neighbors are in support. You know, we really have done everything we possibly can to make this our forever home.
Okay, thank you. That's a good presentation. Thank you.
Sam, go ahead.
I think with the extent of change that's going on here, I think we should do a site visit on the property.
Okay, great. George, did you have a hand up?
This is George Flama. Bob, could you just expand a little on your comments about the roof, given the year that the house was built? Do you think that the Saltworks lumber may have been used to build it?
Well, I'm a little confused now because the photograph that I'm looking at on Form A has a hip roof. The photograph that I'm looking at on Area D does not. So I don't know which house I'm looking. Is that the house?
No, it's the one. If you scroll back down, up right there. That's the house there.
So what's this other picture?
I don't know. I only gave the 3 there of the exterior.
The other picture is just the National Register property listing for the area. It's not for the specific house, it's just for the area.
Okay, well, okay, then I retract my statement. But I would say that if we've had this situation earlier last year, that if there's going to be a complete raise of a building, I'm thinking we need to kick this upstairs a little bit because a site visit wouldn't do anything. I mean, what we would view in a site visit is, this is the existing house, what changes are going to be made, and will it look the same from the street view that it looks today? And that's not what's going to happen here. So I'm not sure. Maybe Sarah takes a look at this. I don't know.
Yeah, Bob, this is Karen Green. And
Yes.
I think that the issue with the I don't know that this is a National Register district. I think that the
Okay.
that Grace was showing you is a something from MHC just off of Macris. So
Okay.
I don't know that the same standards apply to this area of town. I don't believe that it's a National Register historic district.
Yeah,
So,
that wasn't laid out, so I didn't know.
Yeah,
that.
no, my apologies for that. I think that your purview here is really limited to the demolition delay bylaw itself. If you guys want us to, double check that, I'm happy to do that. But Grace, did you think this was a National Register district? Because I believe we only have one, and that's the Bass River National Register Historic District.
Yeah, so this isn't in the district itself, it's just within a inventoried area.
Okay.
So it's treated the same in regards as to putting aesthetic and architecture into consideration, but it's not held, from what I understand, to the same standards as it would be if it was within an actual district. And it's not, the house itself isn't listed either.
Okay.
Yeah, I was reading like the Form A. I mean, it describes the neighborhood, the Hyannis Park area, but it doesn't specifically talk about this specific house in any way as being anything particularly outstanding or historic in any way in and of itself. I think the main thing is to make sure that the neighborhood just keeps its same flavor And as the owner just mentioned, that there's been approval from neighbors who also live in the area. So I don't know, as long as I guess they're happy with what's being done. I don't particularly have a problem with it, but what anybody else has to say. Sam, go ahead.
I have a question. Can we go back to that document that you just had up, Grace, about the area? I was reading this the other night and it made me wonder how dated this document is, because along the lines on the bottom with it says, with the exception of one guest house, Hyannis Park today remains a section of well-maintained private dwellings not far from the center. It sounded like not a whole lot of houses had been changed whenever this document was written up. And I'm curious to know when this document was written up and how much has changed since then.
1979.
Yeah, the recording date's right there, Sam.
All right.
1979.
Yeah.
Do we know how much has changed in the area since then?
Probably a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
Been a lot of new construction. There's other raise and rebuild that happened in this neighborhood, in that area. I mean, if you drive down the road, you can see it's being updated, which it should be. And everything is, for the most part, in that style. Everyone's trying to keep that same style. And in my humble opinion, I think this house would fit well in the neighborhood.
My comment, Julie, if I may, is, this is a demolition delay application. The purview of the commission in this case, what you're being asked to do, if we had the flow chart, and Grace, I don't know if you can put the flow chart up, is really your job here is to determine whether or not this building is significant. And if it is significant, then you would, notify the building commissioner of such, and you have to have a public hearing to, garner public input on whether or not to impose the demolition delay. If it's not significant, then what you do is you let the building commissioner know that the historical commission's reviewed this and you've determined that it's not significant, and then the homeowner and the builder can proceed with their demolition.
George, go ahead.
Thank you, Karen. That was going to be, a point that I wanted to lay out to the commission was that's our role today, is to determine if it's historically significant, whether from a structure standpoint or for previous owners. And I agree with Karen, and would welcome any other comments. And otherwise, I would make a motion based on other people's comments also.
Jack?
With respect to the activity in the neighborhood since that report was written, I just support what, I guess, I'm sorry I didn't get your name, but the builder or the architect said about other rebuilding and renovation activity going on in the neighborhood. I took the time last night to watch the portion of the Zoning Board of Appeals hearing on this house. And a couple of the zoning board members mentioned that there's been a considerable number of changes in the neighborhood. There was only one objection to raise from the public at that hearing last night, but there were several people who had who weighed in to support the raise and replace proposal that's before us. Karen's right. Our role here is just simply to decide if this is significant. The property owner, of course, has the right to make the decision on what they choose to do with the place. We heard from the owner and the architect that there's a lot of damage in the house. You could make a site visit. I'm prepared to vote now. If we decide to make a site visit, I think in the interest of time, we should just, if we decide to do that, we should take the vote at the site and not come back to this meeting. That's it.
Jack, does anybody else have any comments? Melanie, go ahead. Yep, go ahead, Melanie.
Just learn.
Melanie, go ahead.
Yes, I am. Just for me to learn about decision making. Do you need to, or does somewhere along the way, the footprint of the house has to stay the same, or that is now not an issue because it's not historic?
Melanie, if I may, Julie, that's not an issue for this board, Melanie.
Okay.
Okay, that's a zoning issue.
Okay.
If I may, would I be able to say something?
Yes.
Sure, go ahead, Jessica.
We actually we are staying within the footprint. That was one of the things that, we made sure, because we are in a non-conforming lot already, so we had to go through the zoning process, but we are staying within the footprint.
Great, thank you. Bob, Kelly, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I saw in the drawing that there were stilts. So the house is actually elevated and there will not probably be a basement moving forward.
No, that's incorrect. It'll actually be a full basement. So the main house is staying within the footprint. There are two bump outs. One is the kitchen. The other is a deck on the other side. So it's on the rear elevation. You probably saw the stilts.
Okay, thank you.
George?
So if there's no other discussion, I'd like to move forward my motion that, Grace?
The only concern that I might have is because this would be a full raise and replace, about whether or not this would have to go to the commission, only because it does state in their guidelines that if anything is located, it's a building structure or site that's listed on the National Register. So that's my confusion there, is I don't know what they would consider a significant change within a certain site, because that's why I sent out the National Register surveyed area, because a setting or a place can be inventoried, and this one has been. So that's my concern. I don't know where their boundary regarding site would be.
Yeah, Grace, Julie, if I may, I don't think that I'd have a suggestion for the commission. I don't think that that's the case, Grace. But I'd suggest that, George, if you're prepared to make a motion, make it contingent on confirmation with the Cape Cod Commission that they have no jurisdiction. And just to Mrs. Zelch and Mr. Mullen will call over today to find out if that's the case, but I don't believe it is. So.
Thank you, Karen, and I'll add that caveat to the motion that we contingent on sending a request to MHC to make sure that we're in compliance with all of the guidelines relative to National Historic District.
Second that, George. I would correct you. That's not MHC. It's going to be, I believe, the Cape Cod Commission.
Thank you, senior moment.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. I'm gonna roll call for approval. Melanie?
You're muted, Melanie.
Which is so unusual. Yes.
Thank you. Kathy? Oh, she's muted as well. Give me a-
Well, I tried. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, Bob Kelly?
Yes,
Okay, Sam Lawrence?
Yes.
And Bob Heislip?
Yes.
Okay, our motion has passed. Just pending that confirmation through Cape Cod Commission, we are approving the raise and replace. And Doug and Jessica, thank you for coming by today and talking with us about this location.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right. Okay, since we met like a week, a little over a week ago, I don't think we need any real updates on any historic properties unless somebody has something urgent and new that they want to bring up. But I'm pretty sure we can just kind of skip that. Today, two things that I would like to go over with everybody. Yesterday, we canceled our brainstorming session. Speaking with Karen and George, we determined that we kind of have a lot on our plates right now with the archaeology survey that Jack's working on and the town seal. And Grace also has a lot to do with Old Kings Highway. So the more meetings that we have, it's just more work kind of for everybody. And since we have a lot of things going on, we were kind of feeling that we don't really need to be coming up with a lot of new projects at this time. So let's get through a couple of these other things and revisit our brainstorming down the line a little bit when a couple other things have been kind of closed off and we can spend more time devoted to new projects. So I hope everybody's okay with that. And then another, yeah, George, go ahead.
Just not to make more work for Grace, but the project that I'm helping Beverly on with the historic sculpture in Yarmouthport. And we know we need to do a request for proposal on that. So Bev and I would like to start focusing on that. So if we can receive a format, something that gives us guidance to start to put something together, so that we're in a position the next time, the next round of CPA applications, that we can, get that in. So I'm just looking for a format. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And then the other thing, going along the same lines of more work and more meetings, we think that it's the best thing to do to revise our annual meeting schedule and revert back to us just a scheduled one meeting a month on the second Thursday. And then if we need another meeting like today, where we have these two structures that needed our immediate attention, we could slide in another meeting in between our monthly meetings as needed. But to keep it on the docket as a permanent meeting, it's just kind of too much. It's a lot for me too. I mean, I work full time, and a lot of times I'm trying to do online school with my 6-year-old. So it's becoming a little too much for me. So, and I'm sure that it's a lot for everybody else. So I think if everybody's okay with that, I'd like to make a motion to modify our meeting schedule for the year back to one meeting on the second Thursday of every month. Anybody has any comments, please go for it right now. Kathy seconds. Anybody have any opposition to that before we keep going forward with the vote? All right, we're good. I'm just going to roll call. Melanie. Okay, she's raising her hand. Jack. Okay, Bob. Kelly.
Yes. Yes.
George.
Aye.
Okay. Sam.
Modifying to one meeting a month is fine with me.
Okay, thank you. And Bob Heislip. He's frozen. Okay. All right. So that that vote's passed. We're going to revise our schedule back to one meeting a month. The last thing that I have, I did just receive a correspondence regarding a DOT highway project. I think it's just in the kind of preliminary phase right now. Karen, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is just a kind of a start of this, just to let us know this is in the works, but there's really nothing for us to do at this time. Is that correct?
That's correct, Julie. And I don't know if the committee's gotten the letter or not. We got notification, a number of boards and committees got notification from Mass DOT, which is standard process when they've got something in the planning stages. The notification this time was provided extremely early. Usually they wait until the designs are at what they consider a 25% development. And so they provided notification. We were kind of like, why are we getting this so early? Because and the information they provided to provide comment on was really a kind of like a Google map that you get when you print out directions somewhere. So there really wasn't much to go on. Kathy Williams has already followed up with them. Yeah, there's the map. Julie was holding it up. Kathy Williams has followed up, asked for when is the extra information going to be available, and it should be, I think, at the beginning of March. So we will keep you tuned in there. Julie, if I can make note of just one other correspondence, we did receive a notification from the Cape Cod Commission around the development of regional impact on 103 River Street. We can share that correspondence with you if it hasn't been already. What I wanted to let you know is it's the correspondence is really procedural, just saying we've received the referral. So they've set a date of April 2nd for to open the public hearing. In order to do anything, they need to receive an application, and that's on the owner to prepare. But that's something that'll be on the radar, and that's something that fits into kind of the regulatory function of the committee. And I think we'll need to, personally finesse an answer accordingly, or provide some comment. I'd like to be able to provide some comment on that project.
Yes, perfect. Okay.
Can I throw one last thing? And I know you want to keep the meeting short, Julie, but I know I can feel Jack looking at me. And I wanted to let you all know that we spoke, Grace and I together spoke with Ed Bell from Mass Historic last Friday about the Taylor Bray Farm structural improvements. Ed Bell indicated there was no Mass Historic Commission purview in this case. It's not receiving any state funds. It's not receiving any federal funds. Accordingly, he did advise that we be careful with ground disturbance, and particularly be sensitive to the areas that have been identified through the other archaeological efforts. So I've talked to Jeff Colby, and we'll work with the contractor and make sure we delineate. And I know we'll need help figuring out where those locations are, but the idea would be to keep equipment, avoid any ground disturbance where there shouldn't be ground disturbance, other than just around the footprint of the barn.
Thank you, Karen. Just to go back to this first letter that
Julie, Jack, please.
Oh, sorry, Jack, go ahead. My screen's frozen.
Karen, could you also offer a few words about the status of the application for the MHC matching funds?
Oh, sure. My apologies. I forgot that one, Jack. So unfortunately, we're not able to meet the deadline associated with the application to MHC for funding to complement the CPA funds for the archaeological reconnaissance project. We let MHC know. They were very understanding, encouraged future applications, indicated they'd continue to be supportive wherever possible. And I think Jack and I will be meeting sometime soon, Jack, to talk about getting the RFQ out. So it's a bad news, we missed the deadline. Good news, we have money in hand and can move forward with the project. So.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. George, go ahead.
I'd just like to offer to the commission that, I hear what Karen is saying, that clearly, in the past we've talked about not holding up the work at the barn, but to make sure that we do all our checks and balances. And so I am going to do a little more research, have some discussions with Craig Chartier and with Jack, and just to make sure we've exhausted, all of the resources and knowledge that we have here. So at our meeting next month, I will, report on that. And at minimum, and Karen had mentioned, and we had talked about this before, of, doing an observation when, the work is actually happening around the foundation. Based on discussions and what we find out, Plan B may be to suggest to the commission that we do a mini community, not funded, but have volunteers do some additional test bits if it's determined that that's appropriate. So so more to come.
Thank you, George. And Grace just emailed over everybody the Mass DOT correspondence, as well as the Cape Cod Commission correspondence on the 103 River. So you can get yourselves up to date on both of those. Does anybody have anything else that we need to discuss today? Let me know now. All right, so we're going to modify our next meeting. It will not be February 25th. It will be March 11th. And without any further discussion, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Can I have a second? Kathy seconding. George?
Aye.
Melanie?
Yes.
Okay, Jack?
Yep.
Bob Kelly?
Yes.
All right. Sam? Yep, and Bob Heisler. Aye, okay, fantastic. All right, everybody. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much,
Grace.
and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks, Karen. See you guys. Be